We all grew up and experienced to varying degrees trauma, disappointment, hard stuff. We armored up. For a lot of people, for all of us, there's trauma. And people are like, no, there's not trauma for all of us. There's trauma for people who have been abused physically, sexually, emotionally. There's trauma for people of color and people who have been on the margins. There's trauma for all of us. It's just different levels of trauma. I think the one thing I've learned in my research above all else is that in the absence of love and belonging, there's always suffering. I'm severely introverted, super private. And so I love that connection between me and an audience, but it can also be hard on me. And also, I'm talking about things that it's weird to me that people sign up to talk about them, but they're hard topics sometimes. And we laugh and we have fun and we'll sing. But I think what I've learned in doing the research on belonging is that belonging is being a part of something bigger than yourself, but it's also the courage to stand alone and to belong to yourself above all else. And so I think I spend a lot of time belonging to myself, and sometimes that makes other people uncomfortable. And so I think that's hard. I think I do feel I'm always looking for, I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for the roadmap. I want to find the researcher, storyteller, Christian, lover of all people, fighter of the resistance. I want to find the blueprint of who's ahead of me believing what I believe in and doing it really well. The problem is I was so shocked to learn in the research that the opposite of belonging is fitting in. Because fitting in is assessing a group of people and thinking, who do I need to be? What do I need to say? What do I need to wear? How do I need to act? And changing who you are. And true belonging never asks us to change who we are. It demands that we be who we are. Because if we fit in because how we've changed ourselves, that's not belonging. That's not belonging because you betrayed yourself for other people, and that's not sustainable. You start to lose yourself. You can lose yourself in the fitting in, and you can lose yourself in the rebuttal to the fitting in. It's this thing that, it's a quote that is, Braving the Wilderness is all about this, starts with this quote from Maya Angelou, that we're never free until we belong nowhere, we belong everywhere, which is nowhere, which is no place at all, which I thought was a terrible quote for many years. But then I realized, really, and she says, the cost is high, but the reward is great. I think that's the thing, that I feel like I belong everywhere I go, no matter where it is or who I'm with, as long as I never betray myself. And the minute I become who you want me to be in order to fit in and make sure people like me is the moment I no longer belong anywhere. I'll tell you a story about a guy that I interviewed. One of the first men I interviewed when I went from interviewing all women to men was a guy who I said, what is shame for you? And he used the P-U-S-S-Y word, which is like just synonymous with shame in male culture. Yeah. And he said, I'll never forget the day that changed my life. He said, I was at football practice. I was a freshman in high school. And he said, the coach yelled, get on the line. And I didn't want to get on the line. I was afraid to get on the line because I know, it's where people crash into each other. And so I must have had fear on my face because my coach looked at me and said, don't be a P-U-S-S-Y, get on the line. And he said, that's the day that I learned that the way you deal with that is you change that fear into rage. And he said, and I just plowed over the guy across from me. And then he said, then I spent the next 20 years plowing over my wife, my children, my colleagues, the people who worked for me. That's what I did with my fear. Vulnerability is defined as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Can you name one act of courage that you've ever been involved in or that you've ever even witnessed that did not involve uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure? And it's a loaded question because I know the answer is no, because I've asked it thousands and thousands. I've stood in front of Navy SEALs and Special Forces military personnel and said, give me an example. I want you to try hard to give me an example of courage that didn't require vulnerability. And in 10 years, I've never had a single person be able to come up. I've even had 2 guys come up to me who were in the military that said, we're going to think about it and get with you. I said, do it. I would love it. Give me an example of courage, even on the field, that doesn't involve vulnerability. If you think you're being brave and it doesn't involve risk or uncertainty, you're not being that brave. If you know how it's going to turn out, it's not courage. And so in that moment, people go, shit. But I want to be brave and I don't want to be vulnerable. No one wants to be uncomfortable. No one wants to be vulnerable and everyone wants to be brave. And it just doesn't work like that. When I ask people, what is vulnerability? People would say, initiating sex with my wife. Sending my child out the door who thinks he's going to make the first chair in orchestra and knowing he's probably not going to make the orchestra at all. Getting fired. Starting my own business. Saying I love you first in a relationship. Trying to get pregnant after my first miscarriage. Vulnerability is, it's uncertainty. It's not knowing, but doing it anyway because it's the brave thing to do. And so the problem is, I think, that the greatest shame trigger for men is do not be perceived as weak. And in our culture, we believe that vulnerability is weakness. So you don't have to skip too many steps before you go, hey, it's shaming to be vulnerable. And so men do 2 things in the face of shame: pissed off or shut down. And so what we're learning and what people are starting to see very quickly is you cannot be a courageous leader if you're not vulnerable, if you're not willing to have hard, uncomfortable conversations, give hard feedback, receive hard feedback, excavate issues like Charlottesville that no one wants to talk about. Like discomfort is the great enemy of courage. Like my motto is choose courage over comfort because you can't have both. And if you think you're being brave and you're super comfortable, you're not being that brave. We can't ever get rid of shame. What we can do is develop resilience to shame. So if something happens and you're overwhelmed with shame, the first thing you need to do is get back on your emotional feet. Don't talk, text, or type to anyone because one of the things we want to do is push that shit out on other people. Just get into a dark, quiet place and then talk to yourself like you talk to someone you love. Just be like, dude, it's okay. Like you screwed this up. What you said was super hurtful. You're going to have to circle back and clean that stuff up. But give yourself a break here. Then reach out and talk to someone about what you're feeling. Shame cannot survive being spoken. Shame can't hold on because shame can't survive empathy. So 2 choices. You own your story. You get to write the ending. You don't own the story owns you. So then you talk about it now. So shame can't hold on. But then people see and hear you talking about it. And it gives them permission to talk about it. That's why shame cannot hold on to being spoken. So your courage to talk about that deflates shame. It takes it out of the air. It's like filtering poison out of water because you've got the courage to speak up. I mean, and that's how it works. And that's how all of this works, is that we own our story or it owns us. Love takes courage. Be brave, let yourself be seen. And don't wait for the grown-ups to get there. That's the myth. We don't know what we're doing. We're just putting our best foot forward. So if you have an idea or an answer, go for it.